Brant Cooper. Миф о визионерстве. Как построить бизнес на основе принципов Lean Innovation. Okay, so I think we have Brant online. Brant, are you with us? Hi
yes,
there.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. So
Hello,
Brant,
everyone.
please welcome. We can start right now.
Great. Thank you so much. I am so disappointed that I couldn't be there with you. I'd like to blame one on President Trump, but I don't think this one is his fault. So we just had some logistics issues, but I'm happy to be here via Skype. So what I wanted to talk to you about is this idea of a visionary. Basically, the idea is that you must be a visionary in order to have a successful startup. So you are tinkering in your garage, usually is the way the story goes. You're playing around with computer chips, and then you have this brilliant idea just comes to you out of the blue, and you have this amazing idea, and now it is on you. It is up to you to go and produce that product because you have seen the future and you know what will work. The market is ready to beat a path to your door. You're soon to be, a world icon because of this eureka moment. The problem with that story is that it's not true. That's not how you build a successful business. We love that story here in the West, but it's not true. So here's a picture of Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook. This is circa 2004. And he's being interviewed in Palo Alto. He's moved from Boston to Silicon Valley. And somebody asks him, an interviewer asks him, what is your vision for Facebook? And he's sitting there, he's actually got a keg of beer sitting in front of him. In the US, the red cup is representative of alcohol. So he's drinking a beer, and he's there in his t-shirt and his shorts. He looks like this could be 1986. And what is the vision? What do you foresee for Facebook? And he says, well, I hope I make a really cool college director. So in other words, what he's saying is his vision for Facebook is that he hopes he makes a cool college directory. People can look up other people at colleges. He didn't see what Facebook was going to become. He didn't even dream of what Facebook could become. So why is it considered a visionary? The reason is because he's a billionaire. So we call people visionaries after they achieved billionaire status, after they've built a startup. We look backwards and say, oh yeah, that person must be a visionary. Look at. So I like to tell audiences that if, I don't know how much you use Facebook, having a LinkedIn, but if you have visionary in your bio and you're not a billionaire, I would suggest you change your profile. So who's this guy? I want you to think of what is the number one representation of the eureka moment. You're probably going to see it, you know, a few times today in the presentation. You will see a bad clip art representation of a new idea, of the great revolutionary idea, of the epiphany, of the eureka moment. Well, of course, it's the light bulb. And here's the guy that invented the light bulb, right? Thomas Edison. So the story goes that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, but he had this eureka moment and he thought of a light bulb. And so therefore, the light bulb represents this new idea, this eureka moment. Thing is that Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb. When he went to patent the light bulb, he couldn't because the patent already existed. Thomas Edison won the race for a marketable light bulb. He didn't win the race to the light bulb itself. So he ran thousands, his team, his engineering team, his technical co-founder, and his engineering team literally ran thousands of experiments trying to figure out what would be the right material to use as the filament in order to make the light bulb a marketable product. So it's not about eureka moments. It's about running experiments. So finally, let's come to Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is also the other individual held up as being the epitome of the visionary, right? So the story goes, this was literally told by a presidential candidate back in the 90s. You know, Steve Jobs, the lone wolf. He's tinkering with computer chips in his garage, literally in his garage. And his dad comes out and he says, Steve, either you find a product that works or get a job within 2 weeks, or I'm kicking you out. And so then Steve Jobs got this eureka moment and took those computer chips and he invented the Apple computer out of a crate, out of a box his dad made for him. It's a nice story. None of it's true. Innovation doesn't happen inside a garage. When Steve Jobs came out with the iPhone, right? Everybody likes to talk about the iPhone as being this disruptive technology. The iPhone actually was using technology that was used in a bunch of different products, including a bunch of Apple's own products. It had been tested before. And the genius behind it is a guy named John Ives. Certainly, you know, Steve Jobs had an important role to play there. But what was revolutionary and what was disruptive about the iPhone is when it was opened up to third-party developers. So when the App Store opened to third-party developers and anybody could build an app on top of the iPhone, that changed the world. That was disruptive. That actually killed companies all over the world almost overnight. 150, 180-year-old companies like Nokia died because of the iPhone. But it's because the iPhone became a platform, not because it had a bunch of cool technology in it. Steve Jobs opposed opening up the App Store to third-party developers. Oh no, but I thought he was a visionary. Why didn't he see it? Why could he oppose such a thing? Everybody inside of his company, his investors, his developers were all saying, no, we have to open it up. We have to open it up. Steve opposed opening up the App Store to third-party developers. A year later, he relented. And that's when iPhone took off. Steve Jobs is a visionary. Thomas Edison is a visionary. And even Mark Zuckerberg could be considered a visionary, not because they had a eureka moment, but because they wanted to change the world. And they were willing to do anything in order to change the world. They were willing to completely reinvent their platform. They were willing to run 1,000 experiments. They were willing to go against their principles about opening up the App Store. So real visionaries are those that relentlessly pursue the change they want to see in the world, not how they're going to see that change. And the only way that they get to do that is by being out in the open, about being social, about working with others, about getting feedback, getting input. True visionaries relentlessly pursue the change they want to see in the world. So we hear, again, this is sort of a very Western philosophy. Visionaries, you must work on what you're passionate about. So personally, like, I love basketball and I love bacon. So that should that be my startup? I'm confused. baconbasketball.com. It's a dating site for people who can't stop eating bacon while playing basketball. It doesn't seem like that's going to be very viable. Instead of working on what you're passionate about, the trick is to be passionate about what you do. In order to build a business, you actually have to do a bunch of things that you don't want to do. You have to do a bunch of things that aren't fun, that you don't love. You gotta write back-end code. You've got to sales calls, like cold calls. You got to hire and fire people. You got to work with government regulations. That stuff isn't fun. You're not passionate about that. So the trick is actually to be passionate about what you do. Live in the moment and do those things as best as you can do. That's how your company becomes successful. True visionaries are passionate about what they do. So there's another big myth, which is go big or go home. And this is that in order to create value in the world, you have to have this huge billion-dollar business. You have to return money to investors, which is great if you can get there, but we could also be celebrating smaller wins. If you're able to create a smaller business that perhaps feeds your family and you get to send your kids to college, maybe you get to go on vacation in Italy in the summer, that should be celebrated. Those type of businesses are hard to build and really are the backbone of the middle class or the backbone of the economy. And if you're able to create a company that's worth, $10 million a year and you employ 100 people, that's even more difficult to do. That's crazy hard. We should celebrate that. The trick is that you have to, your values have to be aligned with what you're creating. So you can't take a bunch of investor money and go build a lifestyle business. Those things don't go together. You can't not take investor money and then think you're going to go build a multi-billion-dollar business that goes public. Those things don't go together either. The point is that it's really hard to predict whether your business is going to be big beforehand anyway. You don't actually get to, Google your target market size, right? So all of your investors are telling you to create your PowerPoint that has your total addressable market and your target market size, and you Google how many iPhone users there are. So you come up with that number, and you know that it's all BS, and your investor knows it's all BS, but you put it inside of a PowerPoint and you put it inside of an Excel spreadsheet that has your hockey stick revenues going up and to the right, and everybody knows it's not true. We can't predict those things beforehand. The market determines how big it's going to be. So your job is to go out there and try to create value in the marketplace and determine, based upon the value creating, whether there's a big enough market. Market evidence is what answers that question. So go out and try to build a business. Go out and try to prove your business model before you worry about investment. We still operate as if there's a lot of technical risk. But the risk to our business is market risk. Does anybody care? And most likely, people don't care. And that's the toughest part about building a business. It's not the technology. It's discovering what people care about and what value you can create. People are all looking for the meaning of life. The meaning of life is for you to go create value for other people. The size of the company and the wealth and all of that comes if you're successful in creating value. So you go big by starting small. You have to hone in on what is that narrow market segment, this group of people that share the same pain or passion, have similar aspirations. Can I create value for those people? Will those people pay for it? Will they pay for it in such a way that I make more money than it costs to acquire them? Having more money and more eyeballs doesn't solve that problem. That problem is solved by going out into the real world and attempting to create value for these people. Eventually, if you're successful with your small market segment, then you move on to adjacent market segments. And if you're successful with the adjacent market segments, then you move on to other groups of people. And maybe you have to modify the product, and you certainly will have to modify your marketing, your sales tactics. But that's how you start discovering how big the market can be. And this is true whether you're selling to consumers or to businesses. Believe it or not, businesses buy products based upon values, dreams, aspirations in the same way that consumers do. Why? Because they're human beings that are making those decisions. So I talk a lot about this lean innovation, lean startup type of thing. And so we love to hear how it doesn't work for this model or this industry or this size business. But the Chihuahua is lean, and so is the Great Dane. The lean innovation principles are about reducing waste and figuring out whether you have a real business. So I come from the startup world, lived through the dot-com boom bust and through IPO and acquisition and crushing failure. And back in the day, we taught startups to act like big businesses. And so the way big businesses typically do this is that senior person goes like, oh yeah, we're going to go and build this new product, and they invest tens of millions of dollars into it, and they hire their engineering people, and they ramp up all their sales and their marketing. They have a big launch date and fail. They successfully build a product that nobody wants. So that represents a lot of waste. Waste of time and money and resources and opportunity cost, creativity and inspiration. So these lean startup methods, these lean innovation methods, are about reducing the waste, figuring out how do we discover value that we in the world, and how can we market, and how do we sell. It's not just about opening up the toolkit and doing it the way we've always done it. It's discovering a new way. So the 3 E's of lean innovation: empathy, understanding our customers deeply. This does not mean doing what our customers say. We're not asking our customers what they want. We're not asking our customers to predict their future and doing what they say. We're understanding, why do they say what they say? What are their needs? What are their pains? What are their passions? What are their desires? What are their aspirations? What are they hoping to achieve? What impact will it be on their life or their career if they solve their problems? And then it's up to us. It's up to us as entrepreneurs to come up with the solutions. We come up with the ideas. But then we want to apply rigor to the ideas. So we're not going to believe the ideas are true because we thought of them. We're not building a faith-based startup. It isn't going to come true just because we believe it is. No, we're going to apply rigor to it. We're going to run purpose-built experiments that test for the validity of our assumptions, our riskiest assumptions. We're going to validate them or be willing to invalidate them. The sooner that we invalidate a risky assumption, the sooner we can make a change in our business plan, in our business model, in order to do it right. Steve Jobs opens up the Apple for the third developer. Thomas Edison tests the next material to try to find a better filament. Instead of having just one idea and one solution and using up all of our time and our money trying to get that one idea to work, the successful businesses iterate. The successful businesses loop through as many of those options as possible to try to figure out the one that works based upon evidence. The 3rd E, evidence. That's what we're going to stick our start. That's the part we're going to attach our words to. We're going to rely on what the insights we glean from our empathy work, plus the data that we get from our experiments. Those are the things that are going to help us decide the path forward. Empathy, experiments, evidence.
So, Brant,
so again, out in the real world,
actually getting over. Would you wrap up this somehow?
Sure. We can end there.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want me to go ahead?
We are actually done with the time. Well, we would like to thank you so much for this presentation and this speech. We appreciate you having here. Unfortunately, the connection was not so good, but we are still very, very grateful for you for your time and for being with us today.
Okay, sorry the connection was not that great.
Спасибо огромное, друзья мои. Это был Брент Купер, автор книги The Lean Entrepreneur и сооснователь корпорации Move the Needle.